Pledge is a sort of organisation that tries to connect young people with businesses. So we work with schools and colleges and different organisations, so different charities and everything as well, to get young people engaged with us and into the workplace.
We got involved with the Pledge probably 3 or 4 years ago now. We went along to one of the first meetings and it was actually really exciting. There were a lot of people there from local schools and local businesses. So from our perspective as an employer, it was great to sort of connect with local Macclesfield businesses, really.
The Pledge has been able to give me more confidence in myself. I think I've really been able to get on well with my employer because I've seen other employers being engaged through the Pledge.
I think it was in year 11, Jeva came in, did an assembly about the Pledge there. And that's when I first kind of properly, I'd heard bits about it, but that's when I first properly got an idea of what it was, and it was like that connection between schools and the workplace and demonstrating you can do more than uni and all that kind of thing.
I think it's important just to let us know the opportunities that are out there, because it's really hard to kind of find everything, because UCAS has a website for universities and employers don't really have one website, so Pledge can kind of be that bridging the gap.
They've put us in contact with countless local schools and charities and organisations. They approach us constantly to get involved in careers workshops and events that they've set up. They allow for meaningful contact.
Employing young people really helps us in terms of the energy that they bring, fresh ideas and being very committed to the organisation, and also they've got that enthusiasm for training and development, which will really help us further down the line.
But it's what you need to, if you need young people and new talent, you've got to go out and get it, because the students and the children are struggling to come to you. So you've got to show them that you're approachable and that you can do something that sort of means something to them.
Welcome to this live chat facility tutorial. We have had a lot of questions recently about the chat facility and how to use it, so let's get into the video. The chat facility is built with students in mind, with a tool that doesn't need to be parent or teacher led. Each of our pages are linked to the person behind the broadcast, even after it's finished, so you can always ask your questions and get a response about the broadcast. So let's have a look at how to use the chat facility. To use the chat facility, the first thing to do is to type your comment or question into the chat box. You can now enter your screen name. Your screen name will show when you type your question or comment. Now you will see the chat facility ask for your email address. As I mentioned before, each of our pages are linked to people from the organisation who can reply to your questions. You can enter your email address, which will not be shared with anyone, to get a direct response from the people behind the broadcast. If you do not want a direct response, then click the button at the bottom. People behind the broadcast can still respond to you if you don't provide your email address. This just means you may have to come back to the page to check the response. You can now speak to the people behind the broadcast and ask any questions you may have, or check out our partner pages to see the companies we work with who you can speak to right now about their current vacancies. You can also check out our careers page, which connects you to employers. Our live chat service is linked 24/7 to employers from a wide range of sectors, all waiting to hear from you. You can leave a question about how to produce a professional CV or how to prepare for interviews, anything work related, and one of our businesses will respond to you directly. You can also access a wide variety of live interactive broadcasts and video on demand with the live chat support on all pages. Now this bit is for the parents, guardians and teachers. The best bit about the live chat facility is that it is completely moderated, so you don't need to worry if your young person leaves a silly comment, as it will only show on their screen and no one else's. Another great thing about the chat facility is that it is GDPR protected, so no information is shared with anyone else. We will protect all email addresses and will never share personal information of the young people. If you have any questions about the chat facility or the Learn Live channel, please use the email us icon at the top of the page. Thank you, stay safe and stay tuned.
Good morning everyone and welcome to this COVID-19 Response Week on the Learn Live channel. This is our final day and we're looking at more issues where businesses have stepped up during this pandemic. The purpose of this week has been to share an understanding of how COVID-19 has impacted on businesses. The Pledge team at Cheshire and Warrington LEP have maintained a careers information presence throughout Cheshire and Warrington, and this specialist week will take that one step further by looking at industry within the current climate. Sharing an insight into how business has been impacted, how they've been able to support the response to COVID-19 and the long-term implications for their business and industry. Now, we've had various businesses who will be answering the following questions. How has your business been affected? How have you been able to respond to the battle against COVID-19? And are there any long-term during this pandemic? Now, next to the video player, you'll find the live chat facility, which is available to you 24/7 to ask any questions you have to our panel of experts from industry. Coming up first is a video from Emma Danzel for the Love of Scrubs, coordinating a large group of volunteers to produce scrubs and masks for NHS staff during COVID-19.
Hi, my name is Emma Dalzell, and I am working as part of the Local Economic Partnership in partnership with the Pledge. I'm also an entrepreneur, have my own business, I run a marketing agency, but what I wanted to have a talk to you about today was the fact that in addition to all that, I am actually a sewist. I sew. I'm a hobby sewist, which means I do it in my spare time, of which there isn't a great deal. But I have been sewing for quite a while. I learned to sew when I was about 11. My mum taught me to sew. She was a magnificent sewer, made the most incredible clothes, just again as a hobby. And many of the clothes that I had when I was younger, when I was growing up, were made by her. And so were a lot of my doll's clothes. So she taught me to sew. I think I made my first item, a duvet set and a pillowcase, when I was about 11, and I sewed on and off for a little while, and then went to university, didn't really have room for a sewing machine, kind of forgot about it for a bit, and I picked it back up again about 10 years ago when I had my little girl and decided I wanted to make some clothes for her. Now, what's this got to do with COVID-19 response? Well, actually, I've become quite a kind of avid sewer over the past 3 years, and like a lot of people, I'm on social media, and I was looking on Facebook at the beginning of the well, actually just before the lockdown, and I noticed that there was a national shortage of scrubs. So if you don't know, scrubs are items that are worn by in the main doctors and nurses in hospital, and usually in the ICU units and kind of particular wards. So most of the doctors and nurses don't wear scrubs under normal circumstances. They wear nurses' uniforms, or doctors and consultants tend to wear their own clothes. And the problem with that is that their own clothes aren't washable at the high temperatures that will kill the coronavirus. So doctors and nurses were looking for scrubs, which are basically, in fact I'll show you, I have a top here. So they're simple items. They are, if you can see that, generally V-neck, quite lightweight. They have a couple of pockets at the front usually, and they wear them underneath their personal protective equipment, so their PPE, such as gowns, the visors that you might see, and the masks, etc. So the reason that they were short of these is because, as I say, they don't normally wear them, and there wasn't a lot of supply. So I noticed on the Facebook group that there'd been a request nationally for scrubs. And as a sewer, I thought, well, I can make those. They're, as a reasonably decent sewer, they're fairly easy. A top and a pair of trousers, and I'm happy to do that. So I joined the national group, a group called the For Love of Scrubs, and said, I'll sew a couple of pairs of scrubs. That's fine. And then I realised that there was actually a more local need here in Cheshire, and I have some contacts at Leighton Hospital. So I spoke with Leighton and they said absolutely we definitely need some scrubs. We've been unable to get enough to cover for the doctors and nurses that we need. So I said, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll coordinate a few local sewers and we'll see if we can sew you some sets of scrubs. And that was 10 weeks ago. So just really at the beginning of lockdown. Actually overnight, it kind of grew, not out of control, but it grew to a large extent. And within a couple of weeks, I set up a Facebook group, and we had around about 500 volunteers within the first, I think, 3 weeks. And those volunteers were everything from people who could sew, to people who could trace patterns, because we didn't have access to a lot of patterns, people who could drive around and distribute fabric to sewers, people who could cut the fabric, because we had a lot of fabric to cut, people who were happy to do smaller items such as laundry bags. So that was in the first 3 weeks, and it continued and it grew, and other hospitals and GPs contacted us, and individual nurses and doctors. So Macclesfield Hospital got in touch and said that they also needed scrubs, so it grew and grew and grew. 10 weeks later, we've almost finished sewing. We finished the scrubs. We've been sewing some other items, which we've almost finished now, and we've got around about 1,200 volunteers on the Facebook group, and some that are not on Facebook, so are volunteering, and we're communicating via either phone or WhatsApp, and we've got volunteers from all over the county really. So the group started off as Mid-Cheshire, and covered really Leighton Hospital, and then when we expanded out to Macclesfield Hospital, we expanded also to Knutsford. So we have volunteers from, if you think about the geography of Cheshire, we have Knutsford, Northwich, over to Tarpley, down through to Nantwich, even into Whitchurch, actually into Shropshire, back up to Crewe, Alsager, Congleton, Macclesfield, and then kind of back up to Knutsford. And we have, as a group, sewn about 7,500 items in total. So that's a massive effort from everyone involved. And I think one of the things that I've discovered out of it is it's given everyone a sense of purpose really, because of the shortage. People really wanted to help but didn't know how. And what we've discovered is there are a lot of sewers actually in Cheshire, huge amount. It's a wonderful community. And as I say, our Facebook group is not just people who actually sew, but there are lots of volunteers doing other things as well. But it's really been interesting looking at the fact that people have maybe not sewn for a long time. They've had a sewing machine sitting there. They've lost the kind of drive behind sewing either for themselves or their family, and they wanted a purpose to sew for. And so what we've discovered is that it's actually been really good for their mental health, because it's given them that purpose, and it's certainly been good for mine, because we've been communicating with lots of people who have maybe been shielding or have been a little bit lonely, and they've got now this supportive community around them. The group has been amazingly supportive, so if anyone's had a bit of a challenge or they're not sure how to do something, they've been posting on the group, and everyone's been kind of chipping in with advice, tips. I'm sitting here, you can probably see my machines behind me. I've got rather a lot of them, and for different purposes, but it's been amazing to see that kind of group community coming together. And I think, from my perspective, yes, working, homeschooling, all of those kinds of things have been, a part of daily life now, but actually being able to just switch off a little bit from those and concentrate on something a little bit creative, but that has an ultimate purpose around it of helping our doctors and nurses in the times that they really needed that support. We've been fundraising as well, so we've had across 2 different fundraisers, we've raised over £13,000, which has gone on buying fabric. So we've been, I've been using my negotiating skills with wholesalers who wouldn't normally deal with an individual to buy fabric, and we have probably, I've not actually calculated it, but I would say, well, I know one weekend we distributed over 2 kilometres of fabric, and that was just one of the weekends. And if you think about, each set of scrubs requires about 3.5 metres of fabric, and it has to be a particular type of fabric, so I've learned an awful lot about different compositions of fabric, and things that I never thought I would need to know. It's been quite eye-opening and a fantastic learning experience for me as well. And organising around 1,200 volunteers, mainly through Facebook Messenger, has been quite an interesting experience, and has certainly honed my communication skills, and the kind of advice that we need to give both to the volunteers, but also to the GPs and to the hospitals. We've had really good communication with them, and they've been ever so grateful for the support that the community has given. So I just wanted to finish off by reading a little letter that we had through from one of the medical practices, and it says, "Dear Emma, the partners and staff at Reedsmoor Medical Centre would like to take this opportunity to thank you for your kind response in donating both your time and skills in helping us with the provision of scrubs and bags. This is unprecedented times, and knowing that kind people like you are part of a community, all willing to help, is shining a light during difficult times. As you may be clapping for us on a Thursday, rest assured we will also be clapping for you. Thank you again and stay safe." And that's from Reedsmoor Medical Centre in Congleton. So you can see we've reached a lot of people, and I know that we're coming towards the end, hopefully, certainly of sewing scrubs for them. We are still getting requests in, which we're now able to meet because we've built up a slight stock, and we're able to respond to them more quickly now. But yes, it's been a really interesting experience. It's been a valuable experience. I've been able to use a lot of skills that I've built up through my kind of career, as I say, communication skills, negotiating skills, organisation skills. At one point I joked that I should have actually been in Army Logistics because of the amount of the logistics trying to get fabric and scrubs from our local distribution hubs, which we set up in all the main kind of towns. Sometimes we'd have to go through 3 towns to get to the end point, and minimising all of that, certainly within lockdown, all of the driving that was going on, and also making sure that we were maintaining those safe distances and safe practices for social distancing, while still being able to get scrubs made quickly and into the hospitals quickly. And just a very quick idea of the other items that we've made. So laundry bags, we've made headbands with buttons on so that when the doctors have their masks, the elastic doesn't rub their ears because they were getting very sore ears. Mask extenders, mainly for men who didn't want to wear headbands. We've made face coverings, and also we've got people who have knitted and crocheted the most beautiful hearts, which sadly have gone into the hospitals, so that the COVID patients have got a heart to I guess to give them some comfort, and their families have a matching one, because obviously the families weren't able to visit COVID patients, and unfortunately a lot of those have now been released from the hospitals, but sadly some of those hearts have gone with patients who haven't made it, unfortunately. So it's been a real it's been quite an emotional roller coaster, actually, and the skills, as I say, that I've been able to use have been valuable to other people, but also just valuable to me in terms of that mental health aspect, having something to be able to step away at the end of the day and focus on something that really has a purpose for the community. So I hope I've been able to give you a flavour of what we've been doing in our COVID-19 response as a volunteer group, and as I say, we'll be keeping in touch with everyone in that volunteer group, because it's been the most amazing community effort from so many people. We've had businesses donate fabric, items, time, volunteers for driving, all, the most incredible response. So I'd like to finish with a thank you to everyone who's been involved in that, and hopefully you'll have an idea of how you might be able to get involved from a volunteer perspective in future. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Don't forget to use the live chat facility to ask your questions, and check out the resources tab for more information, which you'll find below the video player. We'll see you back here at 1 p.m. to hear from the Medicines Catapult. See you then.
So the Pledge is a sort of organisation that tries to connect young people with businesses. So we work with schools and colleges and different organisations, so different charities and everything as well, to get young people engaged with us and into the workplace.
We got involved with the Pledge probably 3 or 4 years ago now. We went along to one of the first meetings, and it was actually really exciting. There were a lot of people there from local schools and local businesses. So from our perspective as an employer, it was great to sort of connect with local Macclesfield businesses, really.
The Pledge has been able to give me more confidence in myself. I think I've really been able to get on well with my employer, because I've seen other employers being engaged through the Pledge.
I think it was in year 11, Gemma came in, did an assembly about the Pledge there. And that's when I first kind of properly, I'd heard bits about it, but that's when I first properly got an idea of what it was, and it was like that connection between schools and the workplace, and demonstrating you can do more than uni and all that kind of thing.
I think it's important just to let us know the opportunities that are out there, because it's really hard to kind of find everything, because UCAS has a website for universities and employers don't really have one website, so Pledge can kind of be that bridging the gap.
They've put us in contact with countless local schools and charities and organisations. They approach us constantly to get involved in careers workshops and events that they've set up. They allow for meaningful contact.
Employing young people really helps us in terms of the energy that they bring, fresh ideas, and being very committed to the organisation, and also they've got that enthusiasm for training and development, which will really help us further down the line.
But it's what you need to. If you need young people and new talent, you've got to go out and get it, because the students and the children are struggling to come to you. So you've got to show them that you're approachable, and that you can do something that sort of means something to them.